What's up, y'all? It's been a while since I've done a YouTube video. I've been under the weather, haven't been feeling that great. Um, but I did want to take this video and just really delve into something personal. I've been considering it for some time. I was going to talk about my health, and because it impacts me in such a huge way, and the things that I can do, and things that I used to be able to do, but cannot do with ease anymore at times. Um, I just wanted to talk about some of the frustrations I've gone through, am going through, and just, include you guys on the journey of that, since I'm open about everything else. So, I won't say as of late, for the past 4 years, I've been dealing with some pretty spontaneous symptoms. Um, and it's a variety, it's a range of things from hair loss to my hair being brittle, coming out, falling out um, daily. I mean, at times it's more than others. Um, and in the past, with the exception of this past year, it was only seasonal. So the winter time was when I would experience the symptoms I'm about to tell you about the most. So I'd have numbness and tingling in my legs, um, in my arms, in my hands, stiffness in my hands and my feet, my toes, to the point where I couldn't really bend them. Sometimes I was immobile for a period of time. Sometimes will last for a few hours, where I couldn't move my toes, my feet, and I'd have really bad pain in my legs. Um, at that time, I was getting bad heart palpitations to the point of passing out. Uh, let's see, night sweats, and I don't sweat like unless it's summertime and it's a million degrees. Like it just takes a lot for me to sweat for some reason. But I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night drenched. Um, Insomnia was part of the symptoms. What else? Intolerance to cold, severe back pain, um, sharp stabbing pains in my head, chest pain. Um, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. However, as of late, actually, this is the first year that the symptoms have gone on year round, and my symptoms have kind of shifted. Um, and I noticed that within the last 2 years, like in the cycle of like 6 months, my symptoms would shift, and then this is the first year that um, I've had symptoms all year round. Usually in the summertime, I'm good. Like my hair will go back to normal. I also had trouble with my weight. Like I would lose weight very fast. Can't keep weight on. I had intolerance to certain foods too for a while. But this year, some of the new symptoms that have started were my joint pain is every day now, whereas before it was sparse. It was maybe I don't know, every few weeks or so I would have some numbness and tingling, and then it would, stiffness or whatever. But now, I would say it's not daily. There's times where, it'll last for weeks, but um, I'm in pain probably 90% of the time. Um, Sometimes I wake up that way. I just have really bad pain in my joints, my fingers, my back, my neck, um, really bad fatigue, even after sleeping, or there's nights where I just don't sleep at all. Um, just no energy. Like, this stuff it's actually been pretty debilitating, to be very honest. You know, back in the day, in my 20s, my early 20s to mid, and sort of to late 20s, I was able to hold down 2, 3 jobs, go to school, like, travel. Like, it was nothing. None of that stuff nothing was a task for me. Like, I could do what I wanted, work as hard as I wanted to. But the last few years, I can honestly say that my health has stopped much of my activity as far as physically. And if your physical is affected, then, it takes a toll on you mentally and emotionally. And I'm an energy driven person, I'm a sensitive person. So it has definitely taken a toll on me emotionally, where it makes me feel vulnerable, which I do not like. I will admit I do not like feeling vulnerable all the time. Um, and a lot of times it leaves me to feel misunderstood. Um, I have to explain myself a lot because, most people look at me and say, oh, I would have never known, you're fine. Not that most people know, but most people think I'm fine, which is ironic. I don't walk around broadcasting it. I don't want to say I'm a prideful person, but I take pride in holding myself together because I've had to do it for such a long time. I think that's also a mental thing where I feel like I can't exhibit weakness because in the past, if I have done that or, showed vulnerability, the receiving end of either my friends or family, whatever, it wasn't received well, or I wasn't helped in the ways or supported in the ways that I could have been. So it just kind of had me put up a wall. So that's been something I've been working through because it's completely okay to be vulnerable. Um, it's played a lot on my security and myself and my confidence in myself, especially with my hair coming out and um, just these different pains that I feel and these different things that I go through. Um, and another part of that frustration is not having any answers. Going to doctors back when I was working, I won't say working like that, but working a 9 to 5. Um, I had insurance, obviously, and I was going to doctors, and I was like, this is what's going on. And I was pretty adamant about it because, I wanted to know what was going on in my body. At the time, it wasn't as severe as it is now, but I knew something wasn't right. Like, it was just intervals of stuff going on. I was like, my body just feels weird. Like, this is not right. And the doctors would discount me. Now, a lot of things ran through my head. I was like, okay, maybe it's stress, and I remember at one point my doctor tried to put me on anti-anxiety. As the first and last time I will take any kind of medication of anti anything, that was just not the right thing to do. But they definitely discounted how I feel, and when they were writing it off to, you're depressed, you're anxious, you're this, you're that, and it's just like, I've been through so much in my life, and I've never been through this. So I was in a better space at that time. So I'm like, how is it that I'm going through less, but I'm being physically affected now? Like, it just didn't, like, the reason for that couldn't have been depression. Like, I'm so mentally aware of mental health, and I'm ready to acknowledge if that's what it is, but it's not. Like, I acknowledge now that because I haven't had an answer, that it depresses me, and like, sometimes I'm down because, when you wake up every day and you just don't feel good, and a lot of times you can't explain, or you do explain, and, I know that, and I have to be realistic, I know it affects my husband because we don't have any answers. It's not always a solution for the pain. Like, I'll take painkillers, I'll use heating pads, I'll use, soak in Epsom salt, I'll do all these things, and sometimes there's just no relief. And I just have to get through it until it's over. I've even tried to exercise, and it'll aggravate the pain even more. But, back to these doctors, they didn't honor what I was feeling. A thyroid issues run in my family somewhat, so I was I wasn't really knowledgeable because it's not something we really spoke about. The only time I became aware of it was when I was aware that my grandfather had Hashimoto, which I think is an underactive thyroid, and affects the autoimmune system. So, but before that, and even a little bit after, I wasn't that aware of what all of that could entail until I started to do research. When I started to do research and saw that my symptoms matched both hyper and hypo, so I guess my body would just go back and forth. Um, I was like, oh, so maybe it's my thyroid. So even when I told my doctor that, she was like, we can't just send you to the endocrinologist. There's no other, it can't send me based off of symptoms. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you don't have any answers, then you have to send me to somebody who can find me some answers. I was a big advocate, but in my years of dealing with doctors and like, I can't say I've always received the best care because they're ready to shove medicine on you. They're ready to not listen to you a lot of times, unless you've had the same doctor for your entire life. And I've moved around so much that just wasn't the case. But I've had good doctors here and there, but these set of particular doctors, the doctors that I've gone to and new doctors I've tried to go to, they weren't giving me any answers, and they weren't even trying to investigate as to what the issue could be, just to give me a peace of mind. Because at the end of the day, you're getting paid to do a job, and you're not doing your job if you're not honoring your client or your patient. Even if you think it's in their head, it's not up to you. You're not a specialist. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. It should be more like, let's see who I can send you to. What are your symptoms? Let me see if I can send you here. Maybe they can give you some answers. If they can't give you answers, unless, like, they're supposed to help you facilitate a set of doctors that can help you find the answer, regardless of what their opinion is. They're not paid for their opinion. They're paid to test and to find out and to give you some answers. And if they can't give you the answers, to send you to somebody who can give you the answers. That's what a doctor's supposed to do. I did attribute it to race also, because they would always, and age. Race, because I had read an article a while back about doctors who undertreat pain in black patients because they think we have some type of higher threshold for pain. So that's a little bothersome. But and the fact that I'm young, they always say, oh, you're young, you're healthy, there's nothing wrong with you. And it's just like, that with a person who experiences chronic pain, no matter what the doctor says to you, that is probably the most depressing thing to hear. Like, not that you want something wrong with you, but you want answers so that you can come up with a viable solution. At least for me, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to feel like crap every day. I don't want to not have an answer to the things that I'm going through. Like, I'm a doer. I want to be more active. I want to, like, I just got married last year. I don't want to be going through this right now where some days it's just hard to get out of bed. I mean, I do, because being in bed all day will make it worse, but I don't want to be in bed all day or be home or be out and I'm in pain and I can't walk. Like, there's days I can't walk properly. There's days I can't even stand up straight because my back is hurting so bad. There's days or there was a day I had to ask my husband to cut my food for me because I couldn't bend my fingers to do it. I mean, that's the kind of pain I'm in. And for anybody who's self-sufficient and does things for themselves, to not be able to do something for yourself that you've always been able to do, like, that's some scary stuff. Like, to ask somebody to cut your food for you, like, I'm 31 years old. Why? You know what I'm saying? So that's been a challenge. So once I got married, as I've blogged about, and I think I've talked about in my other videos, I quit my job to focus on what my real passion is, to pursue my true purpose and what God has for me to do. So and doing that, it kind of happened like right on time, because my symptoms started to get worse. And this is the first time that it's year round. Like, usually it's just winter time, change of season, but the cold is what usually triggers the pains and all this other stuff. But this is the first time it's year round. Like, in the summertime, my hair will usually go back to normal. It's not breaking anymore. It's not brittle. There's no pain. I gain weight again. Like, but this is like an all year thing. I mean, I've done things from, changing my diet, trying to go vegan, disaster. I'm not saying that's not the way to go, but I would need like professional help with the meal planning and all that stuff to make sure I get the supplements. But that didn't go well. I lost way too much weight. I was already losing weight to begin with. I wasn't feeling any better. I tried a couple different things, vitamins, and over the years they've taken blood work as well. And it always comes back normal. I think maybe one time my thyroid level came back below normal, but it wasn't, to them, it wasn't alarming. And also, before I move forward, when I was going to the doctor while I was working and had insurance, I was pressing my doctor, and finally, after a hospital visit of me almost passing out, I think I want to say it was at work. I wasn't sure if I was at work or home, but, I had to drive myself to the hospital. That's when my thyroid level was a little below normal. I followed up with my primary, and that's when they found a nodule. They found a growth on my thyroid gland. So now I was like, oh, maybe that's the reason why. But the issue is, once I went to the endocrinologist, which is that's what they specialize in, they did a biopsy, which is painful. They did a biopsy of the growth, and it was benign. This was last year. So after that, like, they pretty much dismissed me again. Like, it was like, well, there's nothing we could do for you. And this is like, I'm still having all these symptoms regardless if the growth is benign or not. Like, I'm glad it's not cancerous, but there's something going on in my body. Like, you guys have to help me figure this out. But it's like they just kept writing me off. So we'll go back to now. Now, so I was without insurance from last November when I got married to August. During open enrollment, insurance was entirely too expensive, and I know it wasn't the best choice. It wasn't even my husband's choice, it was mine. And it wasn't the smartest one, but, I was just appalled that healthcare was $600-700 per person, and it wasn't even the best plan. I just had a hard time wrapping my mind around that. We had to pay that much money for healthcare. And that's another thing. Like, I think I had to let go of the price because my health is way more valuable. But in the time, I was just really frustrated with that and looking for insurance, and I just didn't get any insurance. So come August, I went back on the website and I was able to find some affordable insurance. But the downside was it was very difficult to find a doctor because the insurance was a lot cheaper. So anyway, I was able to find a doctor. I went to a rheumatologist last week and they did a workup. She said my joints, it's not arthritis, my joints are fine. They tested for Lyme, they tested for lupus, they tested for all these, I guess, autoimmune things, and everything came back normal. I was very frustrated, not because I wanted to be diagnosed with something, but at the same time I do, so that I can find a solution, because I know that something is going on in my body and I don't have a solution for it. And it's debilitating on some days, it's depressing. I have a visit with an endocrinologist next month. They're going to have to test the growth again and, hopefully take some other tests. But as far as I know, my thyroid function is normal. So me being sick all year round, this is the first year it's all year round, having all these erratic symptoms, the flare-ups on days where, sometimes it's just hard to move my body, period. Like, this has been very frustrating for me. I know it's frustrating for my husband as well, because there's no relief that I can get, or we're just pretty much taking a chance on pain meds and, well, over-the-counter pain meds and, topical creams for my joints and things like that. But it's very limited as to what I can use. So I'm pretty much in limbo right now still, 4 years later, looking for an answer. But, it did give insight to something that I'd never really thought about. And I spoke to my husband about it. I've actually blogged about this. This is also very personal, but, it's okay. 4 years ago, I had my first pregnancy ever. I was very sick. Long story short, I had a partial molar pregnancy where, pretty much the baby wasn't a fetus. I mean, that's why I was sick. You can do your research for more of the details, but that was the onset of these symptoms. So now the good thing is, after, because I went on like a venting thing after the doctor called me. I was like, oh, everything is fine. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm not fine. Like, something is wrong, something is going on. So after talking to my husband about it, he's like, that's what you need to go into the doctors leading with, the onset of when these things happen, not the symptoms, but the onset. So I think that experience that I experienced back in 2012 is the root of, the doctor's negligence, because at the time, after I had that pregnancy, and I couldn't carry, the baby wasn't a fetus, I couldn't carry, of course I grieved, but the doctors did not follow up with me. I was reading recently, it's very hard for me to do research on this, it was a very painful experience. I was reading up on it, and it says I was supposed to be followed up with for about a year after, and I wasn't. The grief is normal. That's not something you ever get over, it's just that experience was traumatic, and as a result, my body is going through something. And I think that, when I go to this endocrinologist, that's what I'm going to lead with. And I'm probably going to have to see, other doctors for them to do different tests, in relation to that. It is very, I don't know, I have a lot of mixed feelings about that experience, but I have to go through it to grow through it. So, and I have to go through it to find the answers, and I have to face it, and I have to keep fighting for myself. I think that's one of the most important lessons, aside from my faith growing immensely during this process and having to rely on my husband and having to rely on God, because God has the final say. God just has the final say. I'm a firm believer in God, and everything happening for a reason, no matter how bad it may seem. Like, I went through so much in my life, and I thank God that He got me through it. And if I didn't go through those exact things, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be married to the best person on earth. And, just certain things just wouldn't be in place that make me so happy. And, this health thing is just another thing that I have to get through. But I just want to vent my frustrations and be brutally honest. Maybe somebody else is going through something like this and needs support, and needs help. We all need support and help, including me. And I would appreciate your love and your feedback. If anybody has any suggestions or anything like that, like, I'm open and more than welcome to them. Thank you guys for watching. This was a lengthy video, but it's very personal and important to me. So, talk to you guys soon, I hope.